We can see the top of his head.
All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to our corporate update call. Thanks so much for coming out. Be sure that you text your teams and invite them to join us. For those that come into the call that are new, we have a special little hello and thank you that we'd like to do. So let us know if you have guests come on, text their name in the chat here on our Zoom call, okay? As well, as we put out reminders and updates for the events that we do, we'll typically put those out on different social media, but the one that we want you guys to really listen in on is our Telegram. I'm going to copy the address really quick and put it down into our chat for you to join and share around with any of your prospects or people that you're trying to invite out to meetings like this. All right. Okay, let's get into the meat and potatoes. First, I want to talk about our Tuesday night calls. These are different each week, and last night we had our newcomers call. I wanted to turn some time to Stu Carvalho to share what happened in the call. Stu?
Thanks, Dale. Well, last night, our second Tuesday of the night, of the month, we have our newcomer call hosted by our lovely CEO.
I think everybody's connection went out when he used the word lovely. Yes,
Yep.
That's exactly how I describe David, is that lovely.
We're having a bad dream here. Stu, are you here? Can you hear us?
Can you guys hear?
Yeah, no.
Yes,
yeah,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, we lost you after you referred to David as a beautiful CEO. Why don't you pick up after that statement? Keep going with your thought.
I don't think I ever referred to David as beautiful, but he is a respected, brilliant CEO.
That's so funny. We all heard that. That's what we all heard. So that's really funny. Why don't you just keep going though? Why don't you give us an update on how last night?
No. But it was wonderful. Every Tuesday, our second Tuesday of the month, David hosts our newcomer calls where he welcomes not only our newcomers, but also, the leaders of the company as well, who invited people to the call. And I know we had two people who invited two newcomers to the call. And so we really appreciate that. But David in the call not only talked about the wonderful products that we have, but he also mentioned the great people that makes up our company, from the executives of the company to also those that are on our scientific advisory board. But he also mentioned, and I also agree with him, that our biggest assets and our greatest people are the distributors themselves. We spent about 45 minutes talking about, the wonderful people that make up this company, the wonderful products that make up this company, and also the wonderful opportunity that is presented here as well. So it was very educational. We talked about different expansions in foreign markets that we will be getting answers to people soon. And also about, new and exciting news that will be coming up in our July event that he mentioned as well. So keep tuning in every week on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. And it's always different. Next week will be our opportunity presentation that will be given by the none other than Maribel Cardona. She did a wonderful job on our active schools past Saturday. And she's a hot hat now, and she'll be giving our opportunity presentation. And I wanted to know on that is, regardless of what rank you all, and I think David and Ryan agrees with this as well, is it's not only about the presentation that is given, but it's also an opportunity for future leaders of our company to get acquainted and to get used to giving presentations in front of people or online, because it would only help your leadership skills and will also give you the confidence to do it on a regular basis. And so we really appreciate Maribel for reaching out and being willing to do these kinds of meetings. Even though she's an A4, I know for a fact that sooner than later, she'll be one of our top leaders in our company because she's showing the skill set that a leader needs to have. And so we appreciate her. We appreciate everyone on this call. So we just keep encouraging those and those that are not on this call to attend our weekly calls every Tuesday. Back to you, Dale.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Stu. All right. So if you've heard about the 500 Club in past months, we've actually started up the qualifiers for the 500 Club for this quarter. Now that means for you, you need to complete 10 distributor enrollments in these 90 days, and that 90 days is up on July 31st. You have to enroll them at a minimum of 200 PV, okay? So if you want to jump into the 500 Club, that's the way to do it. I want to actually invite Ryan, if you'd be willing, if you couldn't talk about the 500 Club and what it means to really be a part of that group.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Dale. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see your smiling faces, and some of you, your names and your photographs are also very nice looking. 500 Club is a program that we came out with. As many of you, you guys all know this, right? I don't need to explain 500 Club. Everyone here knows what the 500 Club is and why we came out with it. Let me share something that I think that you may not know about it that I want you to all pay close attention to. So if you've got your camera turned off, if you're at work and you're listening, pay attention to this part, please. This is something that has to do with life cycle. And I don't know if Ryan Mumford may have shared this in previous weeks, but we're doing a lot of analyses lately to try and measure whether or not these programs are successful, whether they're working or whether they're not working, right? We want to measure what the ROI is on our promotions, our programs, comp plan, everything, right? So part of the analysis, which is really interesting, and all of you who are leaders, and I would expect that most of you are striving to become a leader, should know this and should be aware of some of the drivers of growth and success. We measure growth and success in two ways: new enrollments and reorders. Reorders in terms of retention and new enrollments in terms of duplication. So we look at duplication and retention, and we ask ourselves, does the 500 Club help accomplish that? Or do these other programs or promotions help accomplish that? Let me share a really interesting number with you that we shared last week with the Field Advisory Board, the Spanish-speaking FAB. And it was, this is something that I'm going to be talking about a lot for a long time, probably like a broken record. It's that important. The numbers are pretty stunning. And let me just start out by saying, let's just imagine for a moment here that Kurt Heisey, who I don't see Kurt, but I know Kurt, you're there. I see your name. Kurt reaches out to me and he enrolls me. We're old friends. We went to college together. And he introduces me to ACTIVZ. He talks to me about these cutting edge, scientifically backed, epigenetic technologies. He talks to me, shares a couple of videos with me, tells me why he's doing this, how he's doing it, and it's interesting to me. And I say to myself, I can spend 2 hours a day doing what Kurt does, or following a system. So he invites me and I join. If Kurt does not work with me, if he doesn't dedicate my first 30 days, right, of my tenure as a distributor, if he doesn't focus on helping me get a check in the mail, right? By getting a check, I mean he's going to help me reach out to people who might be interested in the products. He's going to help me reach out to people who are interested in owning and operating their own independent distribution franchise. So he's going to help me make a list and contact. But his number one priority, above all else, is helping his new friend, his old friend Ryan Thompson, his new member of his team, generate a check. Let me tell you why. Because if he doesn't do that, if my first 30 days go by and I don't get a check, I know that I might be describing some of you, but this is an average statistic that we see, an average throughout all markets. There is a 6% chance that I will ever introduce this business to anybody else or product. There's a 6% chance that I will ever share this with anyone else and earn a check or enroll another person, 6%. And there's a 1% chance probability that I will ever qualify for the 500 club. I want that to sink in for a second. In other words, if Kurt doesn't help me have quick success, there's a great chance that I'm just going to be, I spun in, I'm going to spin out. Maybe I didn't spin in, but I'm going to spin out pretty fast. And what I tell people, and have been doing this quite a bit in different boot camps, is don't enroll somebody. Do not do it unless you're willing to do whatever you have to, whatever it takes to help them get a check in their first month. Let me share with you the good news, the positive news, because I know that if Kurt did enroll me, Kurt would make sure that I generated a check in my first month, right? He would do whatever he could to help me create my list, to do three-way calls. He'd model it for me. He'd teach me the principle of ABC. He would he'd help me master the presentation, right? He'd work with me knowing that that my life cycle is largely contingent upon the success that I achieve in my first 30 days. So when I do that, when I introduce this to at least one person, and I get a check for $20 or for $40, right? 20% on a 200 PV pack. Let's just say that. I make a check for 40 bucks in my first 30 days. Now, guess what the likelihood of my success is? The likelihood of my success is there's a 60% chance now that I am going to go enroll at least another person, as opposed to disappearing, as opposed to a 6% chance. There's now a 60% chance that I'm going to do that. And there's a 17% chance, so almost 20, it's almost 20. There's a 17% chance that I'm going to qualify for the 500 club. And that's a big deal, qualifying for the 500 club, because now I'm building the foundation of my business. I go and I find 10 business partners. I get an extra $500 bonus on top of the money that I earn through Fast Start, the 20%. So in other words, don't enroll someone unless you're prepared to help them get some success in that first 30 days. These business analytics are critical to the long-term success of any distributor. And if you are striving to advance and rank and become a leader, step into leadership, you need to know this stuff, right? We're not throwing mud at a wall hoping that some mud sticks, right? You've got to really make sure that when you introduce the business to someone and take on a new business partner, you're willing to do that. The other night, 2 nights ago, Monday night, I was invited by Christina Godoy, who is here, onto one of her team calls, where she did a contest or a promotion, and she raffled some really nice Michael Kors gear away to some women, right, who had rank advanced, right? They qualified to be in this raffle that she put together. And we were, kind of bantering back and forth for over an hour with about 125 people that were on this Zoom. And it was a lot of fun. And something she said reminded me of an old principle that I learned years ago, and that she learned some years ago, which is something that I don't remember who said it, but it's a good rule of thumb. Don't enroll somebody in another state. Don't enroll someone anywhere unless you're willing to get on a plane and go spend some time with them to help them have success. That's how serious it is, right? And that's a good rule of thumb. In other words, drive-by sponsorships don't work. Long distance sponsorships can work if you're willing to do what it takes to help that person have some success. So there you go, guys. Instead of talking about, the underpinnings of the 500 Club, I'm going to leave you with some business data. And I hope that you hold on to that, and that you evaluate your daily plan of actions, that you evaluate the goals that all of you have this month, this week, and today, and filter those goals through that lens. Filter those goals through the lens that I just shared with you, through the lens of how many people do I have who are inside their first 30 days, and what am I going to do to increase the likelihood that they stick around and have success? Because guys, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about what we individually are achieving. It is about what we help other people accomplish. It is about the achievements of the people who we introduce this into the business. Dave and I talk about this, and we have for years, about failure rates and success rates. I don't like talking about failure rates because I think that a lot of people from outside the industry don't understand failure rates, because a lot of people join a business like this and they simply choose not to ever do anything. That doesn't mean they fail. It means that they're choosing not to do anything and they're choosing to just use a product, right? Outsiders would look at that and say, the direct selling industry, the network marketing industry has such a high failure rate. Absolutely, it does not have a high failure rate. It has a pretty high success rate with people who go to work, right? Who make a plan for themselves. It has as high, if not much higher success rate than traditional business, where 95% of new businesses are out of business within their first 5 years. I think for people, for independent distribution franchises like each one of you and all of your business partners that you introduce to ACTIVZ, I think your success rate is much higher than that of a traditional business. If you take action, if you follow a plan, and you stick to that plan, you follow a system. So there you go. I'm jumping down a few different rabbit trails here, but back to my comment about David and my conversations. I will just say this: if you want to increase success and have this be a successful venture for you individually, please do what I'm talking about. Focus on your personals, focus on your people, focus on their needs, focus on their goals, focus on helping them have success in the first 30 days. And when you do that, you will have success. So Dale, back to you.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
You're welcome so much.
And I love hearing Ryan share his thoughts. I get super motivated to go conquer the world, whatever it takes to make sure that I'm doing what I need to have success here. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
All right.
Go conquer the world, Dale.
Will do.
We want you to conquer the world.
One day at a time.
To see you do that.
All right. One last thing that I actually wanted to mention earlier. We have our May promo going on as well. That's the Emora, the free Emora set. That's if you place a reorder at 200 plus PV. Okay, so jot that down. Make sure you get your teams motivated to jump in on this May promo for Emora. Lastly, but certainly not leastly, I'd like to introduce Trisha Albrechtsen, who is going to be sharing a couple thoughts with us as we round out our meeting today. Miss Trisha, how are you?
Doing really good, Dale. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I want to take a minute today and talk about how we are our own best asset, but also can be our biggest saboteur. So I want to set you up, hopefully today, to be watchful of those things that can get you into trouble without even realizing it. So first thing to notice are the words that are coming out of your mouth. And if you're catching things coming out of your mouth that are things like, maybe I'm not growing fast enough, or my team's not growing as fast as this person, or I don't know if I can do this, make sure you catch those really quick, because number one, by the time it comes out of your mouth, you've also thought it. So you're getting a double impact from those words. And if you catch those words, I want you to start noticing them and wiping them away so that they don't stick. Because the last thing we want is to undo all the good that you're doing by the words that are coming out of your mouth. So it takes time to create a new habit. So chances are, as you start to do this and you become more mindful, you're going to slip now and then and catch yourself either thinking something that's not in your favor or saying something that may not be in your favor. So when you catch those things, just wipe them clean and release them. You can literally say, I release you. That is not what I want. And then replace them with something better. So replace them with, I am enough. I'm growing. I am an A16. I attract the right people to my business. People want to be in business with me. I love my ACTIVZ business. Something that's positive and gets you back in that frame of mind where you want to be. So I want to do a little exercise with you today. And I know there's a couple of you driving. So for those of you that are driving, you'll have to just listen. Don't do this. But for everybody else, I'm going to get you out of your comfort zone a little bit. I want you to stand up and I want you to do this with me. So some of you I can see on screen, some of you I can't. But if you are in a place where you can do this, It's not going to be long and it's not going to be too embarrassing. So if you're at work, just do it boldly, do it quickly, and I promise it'll be fun. So I want you to stand up and I want you to put your right arm out in front of you, straight out in front of you. And I want you to point at whatever is straight in front of you and note what that is. In just a minute, I'm going to have you turn to the right, keeping your arm out, and go as far around as you can. And when it starts to hurt and you don't feel like you can go any further, stop. And remember whatever you're pointing at, okay? So now we're going to turn and just turn your body as far as you can and note what you're pointing at, and then come back to center, okay? Okay, put your arm down. Does everybody know what you were pointing at? Okay, so now I want you to close your eyes. And again, if you're driving, please don't do this. Close your eyes and picture yourself raising your arm straight out in front of you and doing exactly what you just did. And turn and turn and turn. This is in your mind. We're picturing ourselves turning until you get all the way around to the front. Okay, and then release back and open your eyes. Okay, it may not be possible in real life, but could you feel yourself going all the way around until you were like twisted at the waist, like a cork, and pointing to the front? Okay, I want you to do it again. Close your eyes. This time, we're gonna go around 2 times. So you're literally gonna twist your waist twice. So go all the way around in your mind till your arm is back at the center in the front, and then do it one more time. So you're doubly corked, doubly twisted. And then release and spin back to the front and open your eyes. Okay, now I want you to really do it again. Put your arm out to the front, and I want you to go around and note this time if you can go further than you did the first time. Could you go farther? Give me a thumbs up if you went farther. Okay, and the first time you went, you thought you'd gone as far as you could. You thought you'd pushed yourself as hard and far as you could. But when you visualize yourself going farther, the brain doesn't know boundaries. So it visualized it going farther. Now we're never going to be able to physically go twice around unless you're extremely double jointed in your waist. But we can all do more than we think we can. And that's what I want you to take away from it today. So if you want to have more success in your phone calls, take a second before you pick up the phone and visualize how the phone call is going to go. And think it through in the positive outlook that you want and the positive results that you want. Visualize it with as much detail as you can. Anytime we can visualize using all of our senses, it's much more impactful. The other thing I want you to start doing for a little while, and maybe for the rest of your ACTIVZ journey, is everybody but Christina. Christina, you're exempt from this, my friend, unless you want to go further. But everybody else on this call, I want you to picture morning or night or both when you're lying in bed, either when you first wake up or before you go to bed. I want you to close your eyes again. I want you to visualize in detail, as much detail as you can muster, what it feels like to be A16. So that's going to be different for every single one of you. What does it mean for you when you hit A16? Are you going to have someone who comes in and fixes your breakfast for you? So when you wake up, can you smell the bacon and eggs? Can you smell whatever they're making in the kitchen? Can you feel a breeze maybe coming in from your window because you have a summer home in Aruba or somewhere really amazing and you just have this ocean breeze coming in? Can you hear it rustling the window shades? Can you hear the ocean? Or maybe your love is the mountains. Do you wake up and hear the birds? Do you hear a stream outside your window? The more senses you can work into this, so your smell, maybe what do you taste? What are some of the foods that you're looking forward to tasting or trying, or maybe having on a more regular basis when you become A16? What does it sound like? Is there somebody vacuuming your floor softly on the other side of the house and you wake up so you don't have to do it because you have a cleaning crew that comes through every week, or you have someone who's just living and comes in for a few hours? What is it like? What is your version of A16? Because the more you can encapsulate that vision and the more you know what it tastes like and feels like and sounds like and is, the more you can have it. because your brain doesn't know the difference. And so once you plant those seeds, as long as you don't sabotage them, like we talked about at the beginning, as long as you're not undoing them, I'm not, get rid of those, release them. They are not serving you well. So as long as you're not doing that, you've planted those seeds, then it's just a case of, just like a farmer, being patient, putting in the work, putting in the time to make sure the weeds stay away. That might be your spouse, that might be your neighbor, that might be a friend that doesn't understand what you're doing. But you can choose to be like a duck. My kids hate this analogy, but you can be like a duck, and when you pour water on a duck, it just rolls off the duck's back. When somebody tells you something that doesn't resonate with what you're thinking and what you're planning and what you're doing, let it roll off your back like a duck's back and just release it, because those thoughts do not have to create your future. If you're doing these exercises every morning and night, your brain won't know the difference, and those things must manifest in physical form at some point. Then we just have to be patient like the farmer. So continue to water your group, so to speak, continue to give your group sunshine, and continue to build and do the things that are necessary, and you too will be an A16. So that's it for me today. Thanks, Dale.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Tricia. That was great. Yeah, give her a hand. I do sign language so I can keep talking and not be overheard because I clap loud. Goodness.
And before we move on, Dale, I'd just like to jump in. Trish, I think that was a great great exercise in visualization, and I have a real world experience that kind of shows the power of visualization. So as most of you guys know, I'm a barrel racer, and last year I was pregnant with my son, so I wasn't able to ride for about 4 months. And during that time, I visualized barrel racing like every single day. I couldn't ride, I couldn't compete. So I visualized running, I visualized saddling my horses, I visualized just everything that had to do with barrel racing. And this memory popped up because in my phone, the memory of the first time I got on my horse after I had my child, it popped up on my phone about a week ago. So I got back on my horses. I felt great because I was doing those visual exercises. And my first runs back, I did extremely well, especially for not riding for 4 months and not competing for 4 months. And it is because I did those visualization every single day. And the more I competed for the last year, the less I visualized my competitions and the less I visualized riding because I was actually doing it. And I'll tell you, I was a stronger competitor just coming off of having a child and of delivering my child than I am today, because I did those visualizations every single day. And the exercise that Trish did just shows that if you visualize and if you can push yourself, you can do amazing things. They did a study with athletes about having them visualize baseball players, visualizing catching the ball, visualizing throwing the ball, visualizing hitting the ball. And the players that did the visualization exercises performed quite a bit more, and they were better athletes than the athletes that just played the game. So those visualization exercises are really strong. And I know because I have not been doing my visualizations, and I am struggling with competing right now. And I even talked to a few people last night of, I just don't feel in sync with my horses. I don't feel like I am the competitor that I was last year, having 4 months off of having a child. And I can attribute that all to visualization. So what Trish said is really powerful, and it can really take you to the next step in your business. So spend the time. I know sometimes it seems silly about, well, how do I visualize making a phone call with someone, or why would I do visualization in my business? But it is a strong practice to get into the habit of doing. So be sure you do those visualization steps to help build your business. So Trish, thank you so much for sharing that exercise and just showing how powerful it is.
Awesome. Thanks, Angie. I love hearing stories like that. This stuff works. To close out our call today, I want to turn time over to our very own David Brown. This is a guy that I talk to regularly to pick his brain on how I can be a better worker, better person. and to improve my own work ethic. I love being able to hear and pick his brain from his experiences. And also how he tends to joke around with hair and all that stuff. I mean, I've got too much for my own taste, but I'm sure he'll tease me about that for saying that. Anyway, here's David. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, I don't know what I can say after Stu said that I was so lovely. I mean, where do you go after that? But it is lovely to have all of you here with us today. And you know, that your example of visualization, both Tricia and Angie, was awesome. You know, actually, who helped me a lot with that? I'd read the book back in the 70s, I think it was. Ryan is probably familiar with this, called Psycho-Cybernetics. So you guys familiar with that book? That's where actually some of the early studies that Angie was just referring to were actually reported on, and she's exactly right. And I remember where Ryan helped me do that, I don't know, 12 years ago now, probably, was at our very first ribbon cutting event for LifeVantage. I had never been involved with network marketing before. I didn't know what to expect. And I don't know, Ryan, how many did we have there? We probably had 150, 200 people.
Yeah, a couple hundred, maybe 300.
And I said, wow, this is awesome. Look at all these people. And Ryan's like, David, this is nothing, man. This is, I mean, we're going to have so many more people in this. I'm like, seriously? You're like, I mean, because I didn't have any point of view or any point of reference. And so what's interesting is that once he planted that seed in my mind, I could visualize myself and ourselves as a company, you know, in vast expanses, auditoriums with thousands of people. And so then when that happened in the not too distant future after that, where we had, you know, where we went from 200 to 500 to 800 to thousands and things like that, it was pretty cool. And people would often ask me about my vision. In my particular case, it actually required somebody else to help plant that seed. So what is the appropriate vision? And Ryan, I distinctly remember that moment. And obviously, one of our responsibilities as leaders is to help other people who have no point of view, no point of reference, I should say, help them understand what the vision can be, what they can actually, you know, visualize themselves, because they might not get it. You know, we like to think that what we're doing here is really different than anything else, but it really isn't. You know, I think, you know, I like to watch college sports, and if I think of college football coaches, what makes a good college football coach? A lot of really good college players. Okay, you can be a really good coach, but if you don't have good players, you're probably not going to be, your team's not going to do that well. You can be a kind of a mediocre coach, and if you have great players, your team will do well. So what do college football coaches and basketball coaches, any coach, what do they find themselves spending most of their time or much of their time doing? Recruiting, going out and trying to find people, the best players to join their team. And all of these players, they have the same dreams. They want to get on a good team. They want to succeed. They want to hopefully go on and become professionals. And so then the coaches, all of whom are going after the same people, are left to say, well, why should you join this? You know, they're saying, why should I join your team? What's in it for me? And that's really not any different than what we're doing, right? So those coaches are going after people, young men, young women, who have exhibited a desire to get a college scholarship in basketball or baseball, or, I mean, I know Sherry's got a daughter who may very well play college softball. And so there will be coaches who look at her and she's going to say, why should I go there? And if we look at all the people that we meet and say, okay, what do I have that person is probably looking for that I can recruit with? You know, and we have a lot. Almost everyone we meet is going to be interested in either making more money and or having better health. And so, you know, what we're doing is very similar to college football coaches, to insurance salesmen. And I know that we get kind of disappointed sometimes in what maybe our rate of success is, how many people we talk to versus how many people say yes. But again, sometimes I think we're just way too hard on ourselves. And again, this is something that Ryan and I talk about a lot, because he's right. Sometimes I will refer to rate of failure as opposed to rate of success. And sometimes I get it backwards. But, you know, if you really think about it, you know, how many people do insurance agents have to talk to before they build a successful insurance practice? We all hear these advertisements by lawyers, you know, if you've been in an accident, call me, whatever. You know, not every single person who hears that advertisement calls that lawyer. In fact, most don't. when in the retail world and in advertising, you purchase advertising and you measure your success, and Gil knows a little bit about this, in terms of cost per 1,000 impressions, referred to as CPM, right, Gil? And you figure out, okay, how much are 1,000 impressions costing me? And then what are my returns on the investment of that cost per thousands? In other words, they know that they've got to have impressions, lots of impressions, thousands of impressions, millions of impressions to have anybody say yes. And so when we beat ourselves up because, you know, Nancy down the road didn't say yes, or Joe across the street didn't say yes, that's okay. Just keep going and realize at a certain point it's a numbers game. And our responsibility is to simply share it and teach it. And if you've done that, you're doing great. The only failure rate, I really think that, and Ryan again taught me this, the only failure is when you just don't do the things that you can do. If you choose not to share it, if you choose not to say anything, well then yeah, you kind of failed to do something that you can do. But if you do, everything else is up to somebody else, and that's their responsibility. And so I can tell you that the other thing that he just mentioned earlier on was plugging in the daily plan of action. Did you know that that holds true to everything? There are studies that show that people who weigh themselves every day, who keep a food journal and don't do anything else, they tend to lose weight or tend to maintain their weight. So plugging into something and having a routine and doing something every single day establishes that discipline that undoubtedly, because it does in every other sector of life, will yield to better performance and better results. And so anyway, on that note, I really do want to thank you for having so many more people than we had on the newcomers call last night. We had a couple of more announcements. We talked about the medical forum is going to be on the 25th. That's going to be with Dr. Rish Patel. So mark that down. We did mention that we're going to have the July event in July. Oddly enough, a July event in July. That's probably a big surprise to you. We will do that. And then finally, I just want, Dale is our English guy. And did he say lastly but not leastly in terms of Trish? I'm not sure that that's really a phrase you can use there, Dale, but we'll work on that later. We'll talk about grammar later on down the road. Mr. Thompson, anything you want to take us home on?
No, I think we're good. I shared some thoughts. Just I hope everyone has a great week. And, you know, May is always an excellent month. It's one of the best months of the year historically for us. So let's make sure we hit this one out of the park. Dig deep, swing for the fences. I'll tell you, sometimes I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm surprised almost every month at what occurs as far as people that just don't quit believing in themselves. So when I say dig deep, right, and swing for the fences, I really mean it. Last month we had a new A12, a guy who lives in Monterey right now, a friend of mine named Ruben. He moved from Chihuahua. He doesn't know a lot of people in Monterey. He's only been there for a couple of months. He lost his mother a handful of months ago as well, and he's overcome some real challenges in his life. Well, in his life just in the last 2 years since he's joined us, and he just hit A12. And you know, I will say that I guess I shouldn't be, but I was a little surprised, right, when he hit A12 last month. But he's someone that just digs deep and he swings for the fences and he believes. And so it's a great lesson for everybody. So that's my challenge to everybody. Let's go have a great month and hit it out of the park this month.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Dale, do you have any last comments? Or
I do actually.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Dale.
Angie and I have a little raffle that we want to share with you all.
Okay, so it is raffle time. So we have everyone's name listed just like we do for every meeting. And this is going to be for 6 reward points. So here we go. And thank you all for joining today. It was a great call. We had a lot of great speakers today. So thank you all for joining, and we will see you on next Tuesday.
All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kathy Durfee. If you didn't see your name, I don't know if she has her camera on. Congratulations. Or Colleen, excuse me, Colleen Durfee. You won.
Colleen, if you would put your ID down in the chat for us.
Yeah. Congratulations, 60 points.